There we go. Okay. I can never be sure with some of this technology, but hello, everyone. Today, I just wanted to talk about a few things. But before I get out of myself, let me introduce myself. My name is Mark Johnston. I am an international marriage expert. I help people all over the world in very dire circumstances. We have clients, my company, we have clients in Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada. I've spoken with people in South Africa, basically anywhere that speaks English. And so I know a lot of people out there, they struggle a little bit trying to figure out, okay, well, what's missing? Why can't I make any progress here? Why can't I move forward? And before I get into an explanation, I want to start off with a little bit of a story. So I can remember, actually, it's going to be a couple stories. I can remember some times with my wife, Jennifer. So Jen and I, we've been married for 13 years now. And this was towards the beginning of our marriage. I think had our second of 5 children. And things were getting really stressful. And I remember just my wife and I were not really connecting. Things seemed to be getting in a rut, not really doing great. And we finally sat down one time and we said, okay, well, what's going on here? What it ended up being is, we got down into what was going on. We each complained, okay, well, I'm not really seeing any love or affection or care in the marriage. And we were both a bit surprised at this, because we both felt like we were giving that. We just weren't receiving it for some reason. And when we got down to it, this ended up being a kind of a mismatch in love languages, and we got over it. Now, we might conclude from this story, okay, well, we can figure things out on our own, right? We don't. Sometimes, yes. The thing is, this was a situation where we really took some conscious effort to work together and really figure things out. We went on and we researched, we read books to try and figure out this aspect a little bit better. And if you can do that together, great. But what I see in many circumstances is there's not always that willingness or that cooperation in both spouses. And I want to give another example here, because I don't want to paint the picture here that my wife and I, we've always had this perfect relationship. We always work everything out perfectly. So I can remember another incident. This was a little bit later. He had now, I think, had about four kids of the 5 that we have right now, and things were getting pretty lots more stressful. There was money problems, there was relationship problems, there was stress problems, and it had all come to a head. So we said, okay, well, we've taken care of other problems, we'll take care of this ourselves, and it just wasn't going away. So we said, okay, well, we will go to our religious leaders. We'll go and ask them for some advice. So we went to the religious leaders, and we talked with them for a while. We worked with them for weeks, getting some advice. And ultimately, my wife Jen and I, we concluded, well, okay, the religious leaders, it was helpful, but it didn't really get us to where we needed to go. The advice was kind of there, but everything came from it wasn't quite right. So we went to a therapist. And actually the first therapist insinuated, I'm going to admit, I had made some mistakes, but this therapist was, implying that my wife needed to make a bunch of changes, like some radical changes that just, it wasn't a good situation. So neither one of us felt good about that. We tried a few times, we tried it following the advice, and it just didn't feel right. We went to another therapist even, and that one also didn't give us really any good advice. We kept having problems. We went to that one for probably a couple months. Ultimately, we kind of came to the conclusion no one is really giving us good advice. We actually, at one point, the religious leader, I was really surprised at this. Our religious leader told us we should just give up on things. And I was floored to hear that. And luckily, my wife and I, we decided that that wasn't in for us. We were especially surprised because that's really not what our religion even teaches. But that's beside the point. We were just surprised at how little progress we were making. The problem here was, and we finally came to the conclusion, the problem here was none of these people were actually experts in marriage. And this is not something that is widely known. You think, okay, I go to a therapist, I go to my religious leader, they know exactly what should be done here. They're the experts. Well, I'll tell you, I went to school. I have my, I have all the education there in psychology, but I'll let you know in a little secret. As part of my education, I didn't have to take any classes on relationship, couples counseling, marriage counseling, anything. I did take a course in family counseling, but that was it, and that's all that was required. That's all that's required by most therapists. Now, the only reason that I can call myself an expert these days is because I've taken hours and years and lots of time to study and make myself into an expert. I have, a few books here, but this is a small representation of my library of relationship books and relationship advice. I read books that I might not agree with. I even have one right here that I just finished I don't really agree with. And that books that I think are really wonderful. Not all advice is the same. So the bottom line is we thought these people would be knowledgeable, and ultimately we ended up wasting a lot of time, effort, money. The thing is, marriage problems are hard. I'm gonna take an example. I was actually talking with a client just the other night, and here in my mind, I was looking at the situation, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm having to juggle. I was just talking with the husband, and we were talking about issues that he was having with his wife, and we were having to bring up issues of her history, personal stress that is just there in the family. Where we touched upon some issues with family of origin in another session. We had talked about differing values. We talked about opinions of friends, opinions of their religion, personal interactions that they have had, personal interactions when there's been stress, and we have all these factors. Responsibility that people feel towards the children. Levels of there's all sorts of factors. It's not just how do we interact in this very moment. And this is not something that many people who do not study this, not something that many people really consider all these factors. And the thing is, like I said, marriage problems are hard. It's a complicated mess sometimes. The thing is here, I see many times, and when people come my way, that they present to me the problems that they're facing, and I see that they are entrenched in their problems. They don't see how it could be different. They don't understand what they're doing wrong, and so the gut reaction is to go get some professional help. That's good, but when that professional help isn't really versed in that realm there, we then have some issues here. So I've even had plenty of clients tell me that they've read a pile of marriage books trying to figure things out, and that still isn't quite working. So what we need here are a few things. There are certain levels of problems, like my first story here, the one where my wife and I did figure things out on our own. We were able to read a pile of marriage books, and we were able to figure things out. If that's great, if that works for you, then great. I would even say the next level is if things are just a little bit worse than that, Sure, seeing a therapist just to kind of have someone help you pick through your thoughts, pick through your feelings, understand things a little bit better. That's also great. But when it gets right down to it, when things are dire, when things are, I've gotten to the point where someone's saying, I'm done with the marriage, I do think that you do need to call in the experts, the people who study this day in and day out, deal with these problems day after day. If you have someone local, then that's a wonderful option. But I know many people do not. I've worked in clinics where no one, not a single, counselor on the staff was where that was their specialty. And I live in a near a decently sized town, and I can tell you that there's not very many marriage experts around where I live. I've looked it up. So what I'm saying here is this is actually why we're here, because we realize that I'm here because I believe that marriage is an extremely important part of anyone's life. It's important for the well-being of your children. It's important for the well-being of you and your happiness, your spouse's happiness, and we're here to help out. So what I'm going to say is, if you've tried all those other things, if it's not working, then it is time to take a step up and actually look for those people who actually know how to solve these problems. I want to just bring up a few things here, a few stories, so to speak. So I have a gentleman, I'm still working with this guy, by the way. He had let us know just how much this things had meant to him. So he said, when I found this program, I had been a full 5 months since my wife had moved out. I don't know exactly how long into the affair she had been, but I had already tried 2 programs to save my marriage. Between the 2, I'd spent, he says, a lot of money. And while I learned a lot about myself and what had gone wrong with our marriage, I had limited success getting any closer to her coming home. I was desperate and thought it was completely over, and then I discovered this program. I often think that if I'd found it first, I might have been able to get my wife home months ago. My initial 12 weeks with Mark and Heather were great, and I learned a ton more. The specific and individualized attention had visible results and brought me hope. But my wife was too far gone, and 12 weeks wasn't enough to turn around. And because there was still hope, and he talks about us, and High Thrive didn't want to abandon me, they offered me an extension on the program. And he says this program is great. I still have access to the online materials, recordings, modules, etc. for reference, but more importantly, I have options for further individual sessions with Mark. I still have access to the group calls, and this has been priceless. My wife is still, not coming home quite yet, and steps and changes are at this point slow, so this extended program is perfect. I can take time and work on things for as long as necessary and have access to pages, the groups, and Mark on an as-needed basis, and I'm not alone in my fight. I'm supported. I have someone to help me choose or confirm the right path when needed. Perfect program for my status and my budget. I just might get my wife home yet. This gentleman here has seen a lot of wins. Went from his wife not speaking to him at all to initiating family activities, initiating actually going out to lunch, to dinner with my client here. She actually enjoys talking about progress that's being made. She talks about her own personal therapy with my client here. Was excited to do things for Christmas, and this was not what was going on when I first got him around. And sometimes things do take time. But what I'm saying here, I could read story after story. I like keeping a little log. It helps me feel good about what's going on. I have this pages of things here that are saying, hey, this was so wonderful. And that's what I'm trying to share with all of you. So if you're needing that extra help, if you are needing, if things are just not looking good and you're looking to do something different here, we would love to talk to you. So below what I'm going to do, I'm going to post a link for, just a free call just to evaluate your situation. You can jump on the phone. Obviously, the call is free, but to continue working, there is going to be a cost. So just a heads up there. But we would, especially around the holidays, I can't even imagine what it would be like to not be able to spend Christmas with my wife or my kids, if things were even worse. And I don't want any of that for you. Like I said, I'm here because I really enjoy helping people. So we would love to help. We'd love to talk with you. Look for the link. I'm just about to post it. And if you have questions, I'll be sticking around a little bit to answer some just in the chat below. All right. Thank you all for listening.